And you don't plan to?
I don't know. I will see like it. I haven't thought of using it for now, but
Okay. Are any other option heads planning to use Proctorio?
No.
No. Okay. I see a question from Kevin Hans. If I take a non-DTC option, will my other CST courses be in Burnaby? Right? And this is a question I've gotten a few times in email. So I just want to clarify. Obviously, for September, we'll all be online, so it doesn't matter which option location, right? But then for January, if we return to in-person, then all of your courses would be at that new campus. So if you were in Burnaby for term 1 and 2, you may choose and be placed in a downtown option, which means you would be switching locations when we return for your term 4. Okay, so sometimes the location of the option does factor into the student's choices when you're choosing, when you're ranking them from 1 to 6. What about the non-option?
Yeah, I see that question being asked a couple of times, actually. So wherever your option is, all of your classes will be.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
there is a
will
question
other
from,
courses use Proctorio? Yeah, so I'll just answer this one. So the Proctorio use will be decided course by course by those instructors. So we are not able to say right now, yes, all term 3 will use or will not use Proctorio software. That we'll have to work through June and make those decisions course by course. Okay, Tejinder, do you want to answer your question?
Yeah, I think there is a question on how the course content of my course is arranged, as when we take into consideration other courses. Sometimes, I mean, it's not hard. It's hard to sequence every topic. So I can give you an example. In case of Datacom, for example, the Intro to Datacom course, they cover TCP/IP towards the end. So there will be some exposure to TCP/IP ahead of time, because if you're developing an application that involves TCP/IP, then some of the stuff will have to be covered before that. But once those topics are covered in the Intro to Datacom course, then those concepts are then, again reviewed in the option course as well. So this is how we try to synchronize the knowledge that you gain from other courses.
Great, thanks.
Does that, yeah?
I see Alexandra asks, does BCIT have a system set up for exam taking? Okay. So the approved online software, approved for privacy and other restrictions, is Proctorio. So that's for the online exam taking. And if you're asking about for in-person, such as those who may have IAPs, where they get extra time for writing exams, it's still in progress, but we are going to be utilizing some of the test centers. There's a test center at the Burnaby campus. It's just that much fewer students will be able to do it at one time, so it will be a bit of a more restriction for scheduling, but it is getting set up for that. Okay, question from JR. Before we register for the CST program, there was no mention about Proctorio. If students think Proctorio is violating personal privacy, is there another option going to be offered? So no, because Proctorio is the one that's been examined and investigated and approved by the BCIT Information Technology group. So they examined a few of them actually, and Proctorio was found to not violate the privacy. But if you have examined it in more detail and you think that it is, we're open to getting you, or I could be the bridge between you and ITS, and we can examine those concerns. But it has already been examined and investigated and approved. So that's the one that, if we were to use a software, that would be the one that we're using. Okay. Other questions? Stephanie, do you see any hands up?
I can clarify a little bit more about Clinton's question. Can
Sure.
I do that, or are you moving on to? Yeah, I mean, another example will be, in client server, we spend half of the course on Java-based development and the other half on C++. So the first half is actually Java. And the main reason is that you are taking C++ in parallel. So by the time you have gone through some basic introduction of C++ in your C++ course, then we basically do, we move on to the C++ in the client server course. So this is how some of these things are synchronized with other courses.
Pat, I see a question for you there.
Yeah, I see it. So to answer that question, the question is around the math and the amount of math and preparation that would be for data science. The math is really light. We get into basic algebra, and really that's it. And we try to do it just to understand the statistics behind the models for the first course, which is the Introduction to Predictive Analytics. We really don't get heavy into it, but it really is enough to get enough understanding to use the different models that we'll be using in all three courses. And really, those are the fundamentals for whatever people call it, predictive analytics, data analytics, data science. They're all given these different names. But yeah, you've got a great skill set with CST to combine with this skill set to go out and start your careers, and it is enough. And you'd be able to use that and grow that knowledge throughout your career. So I think that, in my opinion, it is enough skill to grow that foundation and become an expert over time. So I'd say that this is a great way to get into that field.
I'm going back and forth. Darcy answered a question about coding languages. Carlo asked a question about, will the options be different in January? And yes, they will be. If you look at my 10-minute introduction and slides, we have the list of what we think will be offered in January, always subject to change. So you can see the list that's planned for January, and it is a totally different list than what you're seeing here right now. Okay. Other questions? Pat, there was a second question for you, or did you already answer that one? Sorry.
Yeah, I answered it in the form.
Okay. Okay. What skill should we work on over the summer before term 3 starts? Do any option heads have any particular skills that they think would be helpful when students enter their options?
Well, I mean, practicing on the languages that they have learned is probably kind of a useful thing to do.
Where is the option survey? Stephanie can answer.
Am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So the option survey will be hidden until 4 p.m., at which time there will be a link on the front page of this course, as there was for you to get into the virtual classroom. There will be a link up that will take you to the option survey, and that's going to stay open until January 24th at 11:59 p.m. So you have all of that time to consider what option you want and to make your choices. We're not going to allow changes once you've made your choices, so please be sure before you put them in. But it will be a WordPress survey, and there will be a link to it once this is over.
Okay. Albert, question for you from Clinton. Do you see it?
Oh, yeah, I see it. Well, term 3, we were not really project focused in term 3, but that's this is the first time the option is offered, so we haven't done term 4 yet. But it will one of the courses will be project focused in term 4. The selected topics in programming paradigms you basically do different projects. But that would be in term 4. Term 3 right now, the past term, we didn't really do any major project. And I don't know about Datacom. It says Datacom. I'm not sure whether they do projects in term 3 amount. Oh.
Yes, we do lots of it.
So it sounds like maybe programming paradigms will be a little bit less project focused than client server and Datacom. Would you?
Yeah, in term 3, we didn't really do any major project last term anyway.
In client server as well, we don't do a major project. They are basically lab assignments. Some of the assignments have scope that spans maybe a couple of weeks, but they are actually lab assignments. So the main project is only done in the 4th term, when they actually do an MVC project in larger teams.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the idea for programming paradigm as well. So the project will be in term 4, basically.
Okay. I see a comment from Jazz answering a previous question about what you could do over the summer. I see a question from Saksham about making up 2800. So you can email me and I can give you the PTS equivalents that can be used to make up that course.
Donna?
Yeah.
Yeah, I put a link on that was answering the question of what you could do over the summer. People that are interested in information systems, we're going to be doing a lot of work with our cloud, and there's extensive online hands-on material for getting started with that. So if you go to that link, then you can get a lot of practice before you go into the fall.
Okay, that's good. Just going through. Okay.
If we're going to put up links, I'm going to put up a link for Tech Entrepreneur.
Sure.
I'm just kidding, but I am putting a link up.
I should mention to all the students, all the option courses with explanations and course outlines and such can be found on the CST course matrix. So if you want to know in detail learning outcomes for each of the 3 courses, online is an easy way to find that information. Okay. So JR, your question about virtual versus recorded, we kind of touched on that a little bit in the beginning, but basically I think all the option heads are going to be using a variety of methods. So there's not going to be one option that will say, oh, that one is going to be using only pre-recorded lectures. You'll get a mix, I think, for any of the 6 options. Okay, and Jason, question for you from Gurdon. Will it be the same experience for the ideation course given the term is online?
Well, it should be similar. Darcy can answer as well, but this, like I said, this course is pretty straightforward. The ideation course too, because we follow well-known, like a framework of how to do it. Darcy's put a link in there for how we do that. And the way we teach, we've taught that course for the last 2 or 3 years, could really lend itself fine to being online. Some courses are better and worse, but this is not one I worry about at all being online. It's, like I said already, I feel like we're learning something really useful actually to work together apart.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to add something, Darcy?
No, I think Jason and I are fine-tuning the way it's going to work, but the ideation course is a lot of face-to-face small group work that will have to be coordinated. So we'll refine that over the summer.
Okay. Another question, are industry projects assigned based on what options we choose in 2nd year? So no. You'll be given a whole catalog of the available projects. You'll form your own teams and you'll be able to give preference for which projects you want to work on, and then we'll try to match you up as best as possible. So it'll be you deciding which of the projects sound interesting to you and saying, I want to do that one as my top choice. Okay, Pat, another question about projects, but this time related to predictive analytics from Zlatan.
Oh, okay. We do have a major project in the last term, and it would span the whole term as well. And ideally, we want you to work with a data set that's of interest to you, but we'll provide some as well. And it would work with, you'd be working with large amounts of data, implementing some kind of predictive algorithm. It's pretty open-ended, but I would work with each student to make sure that it covers enough of the material.
Okay. Question about Python. Darcy answered that already. I have a private message from a student, but I'm a little bit back and forth here. So for that private message, if you could just email me, I can answer there. That would probably be easier for me. So I'm trying to just...
Sorry, we do have a hand up. Hi Han Liu has their hand up.
Okay, great, thanks.
Hi Han.
Oh, hi, Han.
Oh, I think they may be on listen only.
Yeah. So if you joined with listen only, we can't hear you. You could type it.
Yes. Yeah, please put your question in the chat if you don't have a microphone, and we will get to you. Did we get to Dilpreet's question?
Oh, Darcy answered.
Oh, Darcy, I see you answered that in the chat. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and Lacey's been answering some questions about predictive analytics. Oh, there we go. Oh, Hi-Han does not have a question. Okay, Ciro's Car says, can we choose our own team, probably teammates, and cross options for 3800? Okay. So in 3800, actually when we're in person in 3800, you must choose your team within your set, within your option cohort. But since we're all online, that may change. So actually, I don't know the answer for that one yet. It will either be within your own set or it could be cross term.
Part of that will boil down to timetabling constraints as well. So I'll see if I can timetable it in a way that lends itself to that, but no promises.
Yeah, it depends on the timetable. Usually when we're face-to-face, you have to choose within your own set because besides the lecture hour, you have a bunch of hours in your schedule that give you just time to work as a team. And we don't want to have conflicts where people cross options, say, oh, I don't have any time in my week to work with my teammates. Okay, Kevin Hans. Yes, tuition is currently being explored, but it's at a much higher level than the CST program. So the Institute will make a decision in general about all of BCIT tuition and they'll announce it. But we wouldn't have any answers to that. We'll just be waiting, kind of like you, to find out what, if any, anything of tuition could change or not. I don't know. Okay, Sarah's car says thank you. Any other hands you see, Stephanie? Or anyone can just go ahead and type. The chat seems to be working quite well and we're able to keep up with the questions. Okay, so for our options next term, if we're still online. I don't see very many raised hands. Hi-Han has typed a question now. I see term 3. Some term 3 courses are canceled.
Not in full-time. That might be PTS, but not in full-time.
Yeah. For September, our term 3, or all of our terms are planned to go forward as usual, but just online. We have not canceled any classes. We're planning just our full number of sets and students and all online. Oh, Lacey, you make a good point. So some, let's see, math, Darcy, remind me, like, so math used to be in term 4 4, but is now in term 3.
Yeah, so object-oriented analysis and design doesn't exist anymore. The project moved to term 4 and statistics moved back to term 3. I think that's it.
Yeah, so maybe if students are seeing not what they're expecting under term 3, it could be because some courses have switched terms, but they have not been canceled. They're just changing places. So Pat, can you define what's basic algebra? There's a big question.
Sure. There's to understand how accurate many of these algorithms are, they use some basic statistical equations, which usually involve plugging in numbers into some predefined variables. So that's really where we work mostly. And then there's some visualizations that we use to understand the accuracy as well and how well they're doing. So it'll be basic stats. There's a bit of crossover and some redundancy, which can't be helped with the statistics course, but we try to keep it light and focused on the algorithm development.
Okay. What's basic? Hello, calculus. Oh, Kevin wants calculus. Okay, I see that I have 3:31. So that is the time that we had planned for questions for faculty and option heads. We could go longer, but I also want to give you time for the students to ask questions just of the newly graduated students. So maybe we'll take Phil as our last question before all the faculty drop off. So for all the option heads, will each assignment and lab have feedback with details for how to improve my code? Let's see, who hasn't spoken in a while? Bruce, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, so I guess pretty much all of the option heads work with students and give them comments on their code. But in general, I would say that term 3 and 4, compared to the first 2 terms, you're expected to raise the bar a bit in terms of being an active learner. So I see that I spend most of my time on code and dealing with students that have problems and can't solve this or that, and giving them suggestions on what to look at next, as opposed to the specific details of line by line coding style. So basically, it's similar but at a higher level.
Okay. Does any other option head want to chime in on that one about feedback on assignments and labs?
Yes, we do. I do.
For Tech Entrepreneur, it's a bit different because you're ideating. So you'll get constant feedback on everything you're doing.
I think students don't want me to look at their code anyway, because they are all saying that I'm yelling at them whenever I look at the code, although I was trying to provide feedback.
So maybe if you want a lot of feedback from your code, you would think about programming paradigms, because Albert loves to give code feedback.
And there's also office hours that people can take advantage of. I noticed that I was seeing a lot more students in option hours virtually than I ever saw in person.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, usually during the labs, if students are stuck at a particular, place, then obviously you will go in and help them out. So that will give you an opportunity to see what's going wrong in their code. But typically when they start their lab, there is a sufficient, reference code provided to them, and sufficient information about how to implement this design pattern or how to design your code. So there is this kind of feedback that goes back and forth.
Okay. So Haihan, this isn't option related, but if you have taken a course in part-time studies, then as soon as you see that course in MyBCIT, and before 10 days of the term have passed, you just email Stephanie at CST Diploma, and we will get that course. We'll get the full-time course dropped because you've already taken the part-time course. Okay, so I don't want to go too long because I want us all to leave and let the students talk to each other and ask questions there. I see another question pop up, but actually, Kevin, I think your question might be a really good one that's asked of the students, the new graduates. So what I'm doing is I've prearranged this with Nicole. Nicole Jinko, I'm assigning her as the presenter and also promoting her to moderator. So when we tested this yesterday, so that when I leave and Stephanie leaves, it should stay open and we should, this slide should remain so that you can just see who's who and who's from which option. All right.
Okay, are we supposed to leave now?
Yes.
Yeah,
So all
is it?
faculty and Stephanie and
Okay,
myself,
thank you.
we're all going to leave, and the students will remain so that the incoming Term 3 students can ask questions of the students that you see up on the slide who have just finished those options. Okay. So thank you for attending. Thank you, option heads, and we will all leave the meeting now.
Okay.
Okay. Bye. Bye. Gotta leave.
Are they gone?
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Hello.
Are they gone? We can't speak while they're still here.
I just see Donna's thing is just frozen on my screen.
I think she's gone now.
Okay, good.
All right, the adults are gone.
Yeah, we can party.
What's up,
guys?
Damn, people recognize me. I'm famous.
So like we just chat now and
Yeah,
What's up?
Oh, Lacey.
Hey, I'm Lacey. I just did term 3 predictive, so if you have any questions about that, I'm here.
I'm Dad. I did programming paradigms. You can ask me questions about the Term 3 courses as well, I suppose, or you can ask any of us rather. So there's that. Yeah.
Oh, I'm Nicole. I'm from data communications. Wait, should we do it like in order of like from client server down to tech entrepreneur just to make it easier?
Yeah, that works. That's actually smart.
Yeah. Oh, let's start with Kelvin.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can.
Cool. So yeah, I guess ask away questions.
What do you do in client server, Kelvin?
Oh, thank you for asking. So yeah, Term 3 client server, we did a lot of building servers from scratch. So we learned how to build a Tomcat server using just Java that we learned from Term 1 and Term 2. Then we switched that over to C/C++ server. And building on top of that, so we learn how HTTP protocol works, how basically clients connect to the server and make requests and get responses back. After that, it was a little bit of like multi-threading, multi-processing, and a little bit of TCP/IP as well. We did so WebSockets in Term 3. So like real-time chats, that kind of thing. Learned a lot about multicast sockets as well. So Tejan teaches you how to implement that using C and C++. And yeah, that was for Term 3. For Term 4, we did 2 courses. One was 4941 and one was 4945. for 4941, we did basically C#.NET full stack. So we used Visual Studio a lot, built full stack web applications, and learned a little more about databases. Actually, the course was a lot of database as well. So he'll teach you about loss update problems, concurrency issues with databases, load balancing as well. And for 4945, that one was had to do it. We made an MVC app for with the whole class, and we did that in C# and ASP.NET. So basically, it's you start out with Java, move on to C++, C, and then C# is kind of like what you did at the end of the option. Oh, hello.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. There was some questions here. I guess we don't really have to like go in order since they're not like option specific.
Yeah.
So Saksham asked, do you sometimes question your decision of coming to BCIT in further terms? So I'm in the predictive analytics option that just started in winter. So I'm actually still, I haven't graduated yet because no predictive students have graduated yet. So I'm going to term 4 in September. Honestly, if I wasn't going into term 4 in September, I don't think that I would continue that semester because it was online. I probably would have postponed if I was like going into like term 1 or 2. But honestly, it gets easier. Term 3, since they changed it this semester, it used to be like the hardest. I know people who graduated and term 3 was apparently like really, really hard for a lot of people. So this semester or this term, since we don't have OID anymore and now stats is in term 3, yeah, I've learned a lot and it's been really good. I definitely recommend continuing on. Anyone else want to add to that?
What was the question?
The question was, do you sometimes question your decision of coming to BCIT in like further terms, like continuing on, not dropping out?
Oh, for me, I wanted to continue, just because like I like the course list and it's very challenging for me, so I like it. I'm also going to do the BTech program, so I'm going to be doing that like online, and we'll see what happens with that.
I have a question for you PA folks. How many group projects did you guys do? You guys recall?
Group projects, sorry, what was the question? I didn't quite
How many
catch that.
group projects did you guys do?
In any option or just in a
In like
specific one?
options relative to PA?
So I took PA and in term 3, we didn't really do any group projects. It was all individual assignments. In like other classes, specifically Python, which I think for Burnaby campus in September, you guys will be taking C++. But for object-oriented programming, we did like 2 or 3 group projects. I did one of them by myself because I'm a loser.
Sounds good, thanks.
In term 4, there's going to be group projects for PA.
Say that again?
There's going to be a group project in term 4 for PA.
Yes, in term 4.
That sounds good.
Lacey, can you tell us your personal impression of predictive analytics? Do you like it? Will you choose it again?
Yeah, actually, I really enjoyed predictive analytics because it was the first semester that it was being offered. I went in with the expectation that it might be a bit of a gong show because that tends to happen with brand new courses at BCIT. So knowing that it's brand new and it hasn't had time to like get refined and stuff like that, going in with that mindset, it definitely made it a lot easier. If I didn't go in with that mindset, it probably would have been like really frustrating. So since stats is now in term 3 starting this semester, I found that with PA there was like a lot of overlap, except we learned a bunch of stats like the first half of PA. So we learned like a bunch of like stat stuff before the midterm. And then we ended up learning that stuff again after the midterm in stats, which made first half of PA a little bit more difficult, but second half of stats really, really easy, since we were just relearning concepts we'd already learned a few weeks prior. However, that might change. I've spoken to Donna Turner and Pat McGee about possibly of aligning those so there's more overlap, because it would have made it a little easier if we were learning the same concepts at the same time. So basically PA kind of was like algorithms and stats had a baby with Python. So if you like those three things.
Let's try taking like questions from the chat just to make it easier, because some people are like muted. So I'll start from like really early on, from Seong Jun. Do the 3 courses you took make a huge difference in the end? Anyone want to give their thoughts on that?
I could talk about the one course I took thus far through Programming Paradigms. There's been a lot of questions just about it. I've been trying to type, but okay. So in term 3, so I've only done term 3 up to this point. I guess because this is like the only intake of Programming Paradigms. Albert just started it. So term 3, you learn this language called OCaml. I'm sure Albert, maybe did he publish like slides and video for you guys? I think he did. But okay, cool. So OCaml essentially, so investment firms use it, like Jane Street, Bloomberg. The reason they use it mostly is because it's strongly typed and type inferred at the same time. And at Jane Street and Bloomberg, they handle like hundreds of millions of dollars worth of transactions a day, right? And because they go through like they're trading, and their traders and their quants, they come up with new trading techniques all the time. So the reason why they use these sort of functional languages is specifically OCaml, is because you can very, very quickly, using something called defensive programming, you can very, very quickly write a piece of code that's relatively bug-free. Like anything Albert has you do in his class, you'll never get a runtime error essentially, or you'll almost never will. It's always a possibility. Your hardware can mess up or something, but like it's so insanely hard to get a runtime error in the language because it's strongly typed and strongly inferred. So everything gets caught at runtime. So you don't have any type declarations. All the types are inferred. So if you're supposed to be returning a Boolean, but you end up trying to return an integer, the code will know. And that's what makes it like really, really hard, but also simultaneously really, really fun. Once you get a hang of the language, which has no for loops or while loops, by the way, it's purely functional. Or there's a way to do it, but Albert, like all the labs, you do them all without them essentially. And you have to essentially, you code everything recursively, and that sort of bubbles up in the way you handle data structures. So the way you handle like a min heap, for instance, or a max heap is way different than the way you would handle it in Java or even C. So as a result, you end up learning them slightly better, in my opinion, because you have to deal with them differently. And it's a lot of fun. Our Paradigm lab, similar to Ski Lab in yeah, so he gives you a paper. He gives you a paper, and that paper essentially every week he'll give you every week he'll give you a paper, and you'll have like it's a lab, and it's just like a C paper. And you he's very nice. He'll let you give it in like 3-4 weeks later. Don't refer to you, cool Carlo. They'll give you a paper, and you have up to 3-4 weeks to do it, and you'll still mark it as full. But like, I guess I should stress maybe the difficulty here, because this might be like a big deal for you guys. There are only 2 people that managed to finish all the labs every week. Like there are people that most people, there were like a lab they didn't finish that they got before midterm. They didn't finish until like a week or 2 after the midterms. Like it took them like 4 to 5 weeks to do. So I guess I should probably tell you guys that, if you like, because that might be like a burden, so to speak. Term 3 is apparently hard. So yeah, evidently it is hard. It's gonna be harder for you guys because you guys have a project. So it's something to look out for. But yeah. There's Albert loving you shit on your work. Albert's actually insanely good. Like you can ask him about anything. So like part of what makes Albert an amazing option instructor, option head, is you can ask him any question about software engineering in general, and you'll have an informed answer on most of them. If he doesn't have an informed answer, he'll let you know, but he'll tell you what he does know about that sort of like field. And Well, the thing is, you can't really, like, for a lot of the things he has you do. Like, one of the first labs, he has you use arbitrary precision numbers, which is on your RAM on your computer. And essentially, it's like normal integers on some languages is stored in 32 bits or 64 bits, depending if you make a long or normal int. It depends on the language too. But an arbitrary precision number will take up as much room on your RAM as it can. And so basically, we had a lab where we had to generate an insanely long prime. And we had to test very, very large primes that he gave us as well to see if they were prime. And doing that's like, I'm talking like numbers with like 40 digits. And doing that's like really hard, like, because your computer, like, if you don't write it really well, your computer will be slowish, like the program will be too slow to do it. But yeah, I think I've been talking a lot. Sorry, someone else can butt in if they want.
Yeah, let's probably try to keep it as short as possible. Sorry, like if that sounds kind of, yeah, but there's like seems like a lot of questions here. I kind of want to make sure that everyone kind of gets their questions through. I'll move on to the next question I see here. Does anyone not recommend the option they took? I like Datacom. I recommend Datacom. It's hard. It's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding.
I'll speak to that as well. Datacom. I see some question like, what is the GPA? What is the grade average? What are some boosted courses? In my opinion, this is my personal opinion. If you're taking PCRT for that, I'm not sure if, I don't know if that's the right way to approach term 3 and term 4 because things do get really difficult. And you're really there to learn, right? It's not really about the GPA, about the booster. So in my opinion, Datacom and all these great courses help you learn different things. So I'd rather hear questions about like, what can you learn? What are something special about your courses? Because you can look at the GPA and stuff like that online. Anyway, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I was also in Datacom. My name's on a list for some reason, but I'll be on the opposite side. Datacom was extremely difficult in terms of the amount of work you do. If you're not willing to put in the effort, don't take Datacom because you'll probably drag yourself down, drag other people down. The option is quite tricky. It's probably one of the hardest options at BCIT for CST. If you're not willing to put in the effort, if you're not willing to stay up to, say, I don't know, 2 a.m. every day working on assignments, projects, don't take it. You're going to waste your time. You're not going to learn from it. The GPA, your GPA won't be as high as first and second term, but I don't know, if you're looking for an employer, employers know that Datacom is one of the hardest options there are. So they've talked to me during interviews and they say, oh, this is a pretty tricky option. And then they understand how difficult it is. And yes, GPA does sometimes matter for some employers, but also the amount of effort and what you get out of it is for it.
So I think something to keep in mind is the GPA to get into each courses really depends on what's available each term. Typically, for when you're deciding on campuses, like the downtown ones require a little higher GPA just because it's smaller classes. More people want to go into the ones downtown specifically because they're downtown. So typically those ones are a little higher. However, because we're doing term 3 online, it's kind of like anybody's game, really. Like there's not going to be like a drive for like which campus you want to get into necessarily. So Pat, leave notes before lectures. Pat gives like really intensive like lab documentation that kind of like walks you through step by step for everything. It's really thorough.
From the other options, like any other thoughts? So we heard from Datacom and Paradigm. Client server, IS, what are your guys' thoughts?
Sorry,
and you guys
what was
were
the question again?
I forgot. Shit. Do you not like? Do you regret taking like your option or something like that?
No. So my option is like, so I'm with Infosys. It's really hard because Bruce sort of like doesn't hold your hand in anything, so you have to you have to suffer, kind of. And if you've taken a class with Bruce, you know how tough he can be. So it's sort of like a, I don't know, yeah, like Datacom, it's hard, but very rewarding at the end. You learn a lot, like so much. So at the time, I did regret it. I thought like, I wish I took, you know, so-and-so easier option. But now that I'm done, yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, probably hear from Infosys as well, and I agree with Renewal. Yeah, at times it is pretty hard, and you have to like figure stuff out on your own. But at the end, it all comes down, and I think you learn a lot in this option. I personally think you learn a lot, and you have like some experience to show when you're applying for jobs. So I think it's good overall. And yeah, we have a set-wide project in term 4, which is I think pretty good experience to put on your resume as well. And yeah, any other questions for Infosys in particular? I saw that there was one question from Han Lee. What is the major prepper? I didn't understand your question, so if you want to repeat that. I guess not.
I guess let's move on to the next question, unless anyone else wants to add on to it.
If it hasn't changed, Shen, it's probably just GPA. It was for us last time.
Okay, Maria asks, do you feel like client server is making you a stronger programmer? So Kelvin?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I think client server builds on top of the knowledge that you already had from term 1 and term 2. So like I said, Java, C, and C++ will be used a lot in your third term for client server. It definitely helps you become or understand more of how I guess computers work out in the real world, where most of the architecture out there is a client server architecture. So you'll have basically servers, and you need to know how to talk to these servers using your own computer or clients. It's very practical. I think that's the word I'll use. Like the things that you learn here will be pretty much applicable to everything that you do in your programming career. I think it also depends on if you enjoy the subject of your option as well. So I think that's the most important part of choosing an option, is picking an option that you like and the technologies that they use, and enjoying, I guess, your time in your third and fourth term. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so let's move on to the next question. Oh shit, I got lost. Shit, there's a lot of questions.
Okay, guys, since we have so many questions going along, I can make a Menti board, so that way we can like track each question. And that way we won't see the discussion sort of pushing the questions up and like so they get lost.
Yeah, that works. That will help.
Right,
like, we're also, by the way, they're also like close to 4 p.m. right now. Like, I'll stay for like if anyone has any like datacom options, but I know some of you guys maybe have like, if you guys have like work or anything happening right now, like feel free to leave, and like maybe we can just direct some students to you if they have any questions.
I can answer one question from Gurdon that just caught my eye, because the question is DAVCOM vs IS, which is best being job ready as a software dev. I won't do the comparison. I will just say I've done a few interviews, and I'm from a Datacom option. I've done a few interviews, and all of the interviews, everything that Amon has taught in the classes in term 3, term 4, Aman really drills in those basic concepts, and really through his exercises, you really learn the low-level stuff like multi-threading, data communications, UDP, TCP, all the security stuff. And those are exactly questions that I get from interviews, like how to manage memory, how to allocate resources, what would you do in this scenario? So I felt really confident going into interviews, and yeah, I think Datacom does a really great job preparing me to become software dev. He really emphasizes on design. Like the first few assignments, like maybe Nicole ends up here, Thomas can testify, you got slaughtered because you can't do the same thing that you did in term 1, term 2, which is just put together code. Hobo works, run a few times, it doesn't work, change like 2 lines of code into it. He really forces you to rethink how you're going to design this code. And by the end of it, what seems really hard in the first assignment is like a piece of cake by the end. It really is. You could do it in 1 or 2 days. But yeah, just to testify as how much you're prepared for the real world in Datacom, it's quite adequate. It's bang for the buck. So that's Datacom. I won't compare it to IS, but maybe some of IS can speak to that as well.
Yeah. So I was just responding to like some private messages. Just to be more specific with what happens in Infosys. So Bruce places a lot of emphasis on what it's like in medium to large companies. So there's a lot of talk on security, best practices, and enterprise concepts. He sort of does, there's a course that we needed to take that isn't available anymore, and it teaches you about like agile and all that other stuff. It's not software. Anyway, so there's that. And then in Infosys, you also take this massive like web dev course with MedHat. It's called Full Stack Web Development. It's a very relevant course. You get introduced to like a lot of technology. So you work with Docker and .NET and React, which are skills that I think are super useful for web dev, if you want to get into that. And then yeah, I think both Datacom and IS have, they're like pros and cons, and they're both such a huge grind. So choose your poison. That's it for me.
Oh, thank you, Lucy. All questions. I feel like your option will help your future job. Yeah. Albert's programming paradigms option. Like, I just became a much better programmer. Like, I would never like. So, for example, whenever I see like JavaScript code or Python code, it seems to be like from an open source database or whatever the case may be. Like, those FOSS software like packages you always see, or like any sort of code you ever see architecture. When you see JavaScript or Python, it seems to be that like the standard is to use stuff like .for each, .map, .filter, or if you're in Python to use the comprehensions. And like I have no problem doing that now. Of course, that's like the easiest thing. It's like the easiest thing to learn, in my opinion, though. From programming paradigms, I guess Albert sort of like he'll have you like use some sort of like concept. So like I told you about the arbitrary precision number. Another sort of assignment we had was RSA encryption. So you have to actually go look at Wikipedia. I feel like this is one of the better like sort of like side effects of both Albert's course for me and Xian's Datacom course in term 3 was that you have to do a lot of reading or sort of understanding on your own, and that helped me like self-learn. Like I feel like at the moment I can self-learn any tech stack. A large part to do with those courses, because those courses you have to sit on your own, you have to learn, you have to really go through resources, textual resources. So yeah, I feel like I could just sit down and just not
for Datacom, I guess depends on like what job you're trying to get into. So that's for the question. Do you feel like your option will help your future job? But Datacom depends on what you're getting in yourself into. You don't really learn too much about like web stuff. So if you're planning to do web stuff, probably don't choose Datacom.
Oh, just to speak to that, we do a gaming project at the end of Datacom. So there are several aspects of it. There's a networking aspect, there's a server aspect, and there's the front end aspect. So what you learn in that project, if you're into gaming, is perfect. If you're into security, I had an interview with a security company. I'm actually working at a security company in a few days. So if you're into that, then definitely Datacom is a great option for you to take.
Anyone else wants to add on to that from their view of their option?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
How do you feel your option will help you in your future job?
Oh, future job. I think I'll answer like in terms of job search. As Neil mentioned, we have a full stack web development course where we are introduced to like all of the new tech things that you can put on your resume, like Docker and other relevant technologies. So I think Infosys is pretty helpful, like in getting your foot out the out the door and finding the first job. Hopefully, I'm still looking for a job, but yeah.
So what do you
I
learn
think
about
Infosys
Docker?
will. I'm sorry.
So what do you learn about Docker?
So we had a couple of assignments. Well, we have each week we learned a new technology. So for Docker, we were containerizing and so yeah, basically that. So it was just an introduction to several technologies that you can build onto on your own, I guess.
The cloud related, right?
We don't learn much about like cloud. So we had that course with MedHat, and MedHat's like a huge proponent of Microsoft. So we did a few labs on Azure. But yeah, it seems like with Infosys you just kind of get a little bit of everything, but like everything. And when Prab says like it's an introduction, like we have an introduction to a certain technology, I would say it's like a little deeper than just an introduction, because he gets you to like really experiment with the whatever it is you're learning. And week by week, it's not just like a new thing. It's like a new thing and then combine it with the thing you learned last week. And then, yeah, so at the end, like you can combine just like a bunch of front end stuff, back end stuff, database, Docker, deployment stuff, whatever. Yeah.
Shall we move on to the next question then? So next question is, how hard is client server? What really gets covered in it?
Yeah, in terms of difficulty of client server, it's pretty much as much work as you put into it. It'll be as hard as it'll be for you. If you keep on top of the material, ask questions, listen in class, I think it won't. It's pretty easy. There has been, I guess, issues with people having been showing up to class and not paying attention, and they didn't do so well. But as long as you pay attention and show up to class, that'll be fine. And I guess class is online now, so just pay attention at home. The exams are hard. I can say that. So Tajinder's exams are going to cover pretty much everything that you've done in labs and lectures, and a lot more. So he'll be there to help you answer questions, like the whole class that I'll have during exams. But then it's just like kind of like a little push into saying like, all right, this is kind of what I'm expecting of you to answer for this question, but you're gonna have to solve that by yourself. Is that the only question? Just the difficulty of CS?
What's covered in it? As
Oh,
well.
what's covered in it as well? Yeah, I can talk a little bit into that. Yeah, in terms of languages, like I said, Java, C, C++, C Sharp. For C Sharp, we use .NET Framework. Mainly in third term, it's object-oriented design. So we build on top of that. I think for Burnaby campus, they're doing C++ still. So they'll kind of go in tandem with your client-server course. We talk about multi-threading in both in Java and in C++. So you'll be learning how to build multi-threaded applications in Java and C++, which is something that a lot of companies do pay attention to. TCP as well. So we build like a multicast multicast socket application that can like in third term actually. No, a multicast socket application in fourth term that we made into a game. So you can play this game that's hosted on Azure, and it's pretty much like a snake game. Well, every group made their own game, and you just learn about technologies that are practical in terms of what you can implement on the web, and as well as a little bit more in-depth server technologies like pipes and FIFOs as well. And yeah, in fourth term, it's a little bit more, I guess, higher level compared to third term. Third term, you deal a lot with C++ and C, but fourth term is kind of like, all right, now you know all the underlying technology of how this works. Here's how you build on top of it. Yeah, does that answer your question? Whoever asked that.
I got a different question for the PA guys. Looking at like some of the courses, right? And what's basic graphing? Define basic graphing.
So remember in like grade 11 and 12 where you had to like draw a line on a graph, like X and Y coordinates. Yeah, it's basically just X and Y coordinates. In the beginning, we kind of just like go over like a review of like linear algebra. So like the equation of a line, how to like translate X and Y coordinates. But that's only for like the first like week, just to remind ourselves. And then we do it all on the computer. So we actually use a Python library to help with the graphing. So
sounds good. Thanks.
We can move on to the next question on that Pentameter thing. Which option is closest option to a full stack development? I know there's another diploma for specifically for like web development if you want to look into that. But I think IS as well has a full stack course that they take.
Yeah.
Yeah, so not too sure about like client server, but if any of you guys have any input on that. If nothing, move on to the next question. What would be the most helpful to learn in the summer to prepare for term 3?
Brush up on your stats. If you've never taken stats before, I recommend learning. If you have, then it should be fine. But I'd never taken a stats course, and that was probably the hardest thing, especially taking PA. Anyone else?
If you're using or if you're planning to go into client server, definitely learn C++. Yeah, because you guys will be going into term 3 if you're in Burnaby learning C++. So definitely get a head start on that.
Anyone else? No? Okay, so move on to the next question. How do you find working in groups project remotely. For my team, it was fine, not too much issues. Starting off, it was pretty difficult just because when you're at home, you kind of don't have motivation to work, but other people might have a different experience with that.
I would like to talk about that. For Datacom, Henry and I were the project managers for our final term project, the video game we talked about. We found it was increasingly difficult to manage our class online. It was tough to get people motivated. It was tough to communicate because usually we did stand-ups every Wednesday and communicated daily face-to-face in the classroom. So when we moved online, it was really hard to get these team projects going. And even though we had the online tools like Trello boards and GitHub, it was still difficult to motivate the people. And it was also difficult to get everybody on the same page. And it's definitely a learning process. And I think that the instructors need to take look into this and figure out how they want to better approach this within team-to-team collaboration and instructor-to-student instruction. It's definitely not the easiest thing to do, and I suggest if you are in a group, you should really have proper, good communication every single day. Thank you.
This is about working on group projects remotely. Was that the question? Yeah. I think this sort of is important because I guess this feeds into like just like your sets in general. As soon as we went online, I guess our sets already kept a certain level of correspondence through WhatsApp, and there's only 9 of us, so we're pretty tight knit. But as soon as it went online, we were always in a Discord voice chat like every day. There was at least 1 or 2 of us in there. We chatted with each other. We were able to help each other with assignments. That was with programming paradigms, of course. We had 9 people, so obviously it's a lot easier to sort of rally up 9 people to get into like a Discord together or what have you. But honestly, I can't understate how important that is to have some sort of online correspondence. We did that with I did that with my practicum as well, which had people from other options. It was just like 5 of us, and we were always in our Discord voice chat. We were always working on stuff, chatting with each other, and it just helps. I think that's like one of the best things you could do for this whole sort of online structure.
Yeah. When we did the practicum online, we had Discord and Slack for our project, and we used Discord for like pair programming, which I found really helpful because we were working with a brand new technology none of us had really used before. So being able to like share the screens on Discord really easily and help each other out in sort of pair programming is extremely helpful. So I definitely suggest stuff like that as well. Really important to keep communication, and don't let yourself slack. I know that even though classes are moving to online in September, as long as there's no restrictions in place for gatherings and stuff like that, me and some of my option people from my option are planning on actually like getting together and doing like a in-person virtual class, I guess, as long as it's safe to do so, because that experience, the social experience, is really invaluable. So.
Does anyone else have their inputs? No? Okay, I'll move on to the next question then. For Datacom, do you think your option can be learned by yourself without taking the courses at BCIT?
I answered that question already in the chat. I said that, what did I say now? I said that you could probably learn everything from CST online. Like everything's online. It's just that Amon's notes were really well structured. Everything was step by step in detail with the theory and the practical work. Plus his teaching itself was invaluable. He's been doing this for decades now. I think he's been at BCIT for 30 years, he said. He's just a really great instructor, and I think if you're interested in DCOM, you should take the DCOM option, because learning it online, you'll miss a lot of different parts to it.
Can I add to that? Yeah, you can learn anything from CST online. Like you just look up a tutorial or whatever. I think the value of CST is they sort of guide you towards like what to learn, and I guess they motivate you too. And like you can do it with like students. You can learn with students, and just like the networking aspect of like meeting new people and like having these industry professionals to work with, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Neil. It's pretty much meeting people, making connections, and I guess building that camaraderie that you won't really find anywhere else. It's because that's kind of how it is like in the workplace, where you kind of get to know people and kind of help each other build something, whether it be a product or like an application. You can't really get that anywhere else.
Yeah, I can't stress like the fact that like you kind of get like nice easy steps from your professors for any of these options or courses as well. Like that helps a lot. Like if you're gonna self-learn something, a lot of these more technical things, like if I looked up something on the Turing machine, for example, right? It's gonna take me like a week to find like, not a week, but it'll take me a while to find the relevant resources for learning those, right? And the steps I wanna take, what the prerequisites are for that topic. Whereas like with BCIT, when you're taking any of these courses, like the profs handle that for you. I feel like that's like a very good boon to have. So like if you were interested in datacom, it would definitely be a million times easier learning it through courses than it would be just on your own.
I think those were all the questions that we had on that website. I posted the link again on chat in case anyone else has any more questions that they want to ask, because it's a bit hard to keep track of the questions on chat since it goes by pretty fast. So if you guys want to post your questions right now, if you have any that you want to ask us, or just post it in chat right now because it stopped. It stopped moving.
I got one final one. Mac or Windows?
Mac.
Why, Linux terminal?
Mac.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
For PA, it doesn't matter.
Cool.
Datacom, you have like courses that, or projects that you have to write and compile in Linux. So if you're taking, if you plan on taking like Datacom, maybe dual booting your computer might be nice.
Yeah, a lot of people in Datacom, they either do boot a computer with 2 operating systems, or what I did the entire 2 terms, I just had a Windows machine and I had a virtual machine for Linux, and it worked. It was a bit slow, but like if you didn't want to go through the extra hassle, it works perfectly fine. You can get through all your assignment work that way.
There's a question on chat. For each option, how many hours a day did you have to put in? It depended on the project for Datacom. Some were like really easy that you can do in a day or less than a day, and there were some that took weeks.
For Datacom, yeah, a lot of assignments, a lot of classmates, they're staying up to like 1 a.m., 2 a.m., sometimes 4 a.m. if it's the due date. So if you're looking to get sleep in Datacom, you're not going to get sleep in Datacom. So just expect to be working continuously for 2 straight terms. If you have a part-time job, that's also going to be a very tricky thing to do. Just be able to put in the full hours, dedicate all your time to your work, and you'll be able to get through it.
Yeah, like I've slept at school. There's like a day before a project that I didn't sleep at all, just because I had a weird bug that I had to fix. So expect that.
Yeah, Nicole was pretty much sleeping in the datacom room with the whole time. So I think I came in the morning at maybe like 7:30 a.m. and she's still sleeping there. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I think to add to that, it's not so much the difficulty. It's more like because you're working in a group and you feel like you owe it to your group to do well. So that's why you put it in the extra hours. I remember the last project in term 3, all of us pulled all-nighters in the Datacom lab.
Yeah.
And when Aman was lecturing at like 9 a.m., I think we were just past the week. Nothing was going in. So it wasn't really quite the difficulty. And if we had planned our time better, this would not happen. But I think it's also those soft skills you learn, like project management, time organization, all that stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. That's just to add on top of what Nicole and Sophia said.
Yeah, it looks like the meeting's gonna kick us all off in like 5 minutes. I'll post like my Discord there, or if you guys want to post like your email or any way to contact you for like these guys, just put it down, just so if they have any more questions, they can ask us.
Do you guys have a Discord channel, by the way?
Yes. I just wanted to mention, I'm not sure if it was before, like it doesn't matter for September since it's going to be online, but the downtown campus, there's no option rooms. So if that makes a difference to anyone, you don't get your own like little dedicated option room with like a microwave and stuff like they do at Burnaby campus.
Yeah, having an option room is pretty nice, especially for Datacom, because I don't know about other sets, but ours it's 24 hours, so that's why we're able to like stay in the classroom all night. If it's not, if you're like in a different option, they'll kick you out of the building.
Yeah, downtown campus kicks you out at like 10 p.m. no matter what.
Programming paradigms, we share our option lab with the AI folks, but it's open 24/7 other than that. So like as long as like one of you guys aren't having a course, then anyone from those two options could be in that room like all night.
Oh yeah. Yeah, option rooms are shared. Same with Datacom. We have the BTech people in there using our rooms. Yeah. Is there any other like last minute questions before they kick us out in 2.5 minutes?
I got a small one. For the PA folks, do you guys remember the what the curve looked like for GPA?
For which folks?
For the PA?
We didn't get like an overall like of everyone, but from my understanding, most everyone got like really high grades in the option class. It wasn't difficult, it was just really time consuming, and Pat's a really generous marker, really forgiving. So if you don't want a crazy marker like Albert or Bruce, Pat's really nice.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah. Bye, everyone. Discord, there's a server. Any more questions, just let us know. It's going to kick us off in like 1 minute.
Well, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Dude, this PP server makes me accept not safe for work terms and conditions.
It's yeah.
Oh.
General's fine, I think, but you don't want to really go to any other channels. No one goes.
No.
All right, true. Sounds good.
All right. Have a great summer, guys.
Yeah.
Take care.
Good luck.